So please join me at this time in welcoming Salma, an 18-year-old from Gaza, who will talk to you a little bit about her experience and how she has changed from Seeds of Peace.
Hi, everyone. So, what are you doing here? Why are you supporting Seeds of Peace? What makes it so special, so unique, and so life-changing? Let me tell you my story. The first thing you should know about me is that I'm a Palestinian who was born and raised in the Gaza Strip. Before the 2009 Israeli attacks on Gaza, my only experience with war was through history books. But in the winter of 2009, war became a terrible reality. For 3 weeks, I could not leave my house to see the sky or feel the sunlight. I felt like I was locked inside a prison, making the already tiny Gaza Strip feel even smaller. Bomb explosions shattered the windows in my house. I spent my days assuring my siblings that everything was going to be okay, even though I didn't know what okay was anymore. My school, where I learned to speak English, was reduced to rubble. All that was left of the library, the place that ingrained within me the love of reading and exploration, were charred book spines. My school was the only place where I felt powerful, where I felt special, and most importantly, where I felt myself. It was at my school where I first learned about Seeds of Peace. I applied to be a part of the Palestinian delegation, and I got accepted. I decided to attend camp so that I could meet kids from the other side of the conflict and share with them my experiences. I arrived at camp late because my permit was rejected 3 times. When I finally arrived in Maine, all I could think about was how I had just been successfully humiliated by Israeli soldiers on the checkpoint leaving Gaza. And now, I was about to spend 3 weeks living with Israelis. During my first dialogue session at camp, I felt intimidated, yet powerful. Most Israelis have never met someone from Gaza, but here I was, given the opportunity to speak about my country, to represent my people, and to share their stories and history. I could be a face, not a statistic. I formed relationships with Israelis who were willing to question the narratives they had learned. Equally as important, I had the opportunity to listen and understand perspectives that are different from mine and discover the power of empathy. We all came out of the experience committed to bettering our lives back home. After returning from Maine, I was unable to see my friends from Seed in the West Bank and in other parts of Palestine and Israel because of the blockade. I felt isolated, but the isolation made me even more determined to work for change. Most Gazans have never had the chance to experience life outside of the Gaza Strip, and I knew that it was my duty to share with them the lessons and values we lived by at camp. So I helped organize a week-long summer camp in Gaza with kids from disadvantaged areas in the Gaza Strip. We held workshops on conflict resolution and exercises on trauma relief. The summer camp was my first time interacting with children from different parts of my community. The way the kids responded to the way I taught them dance was one of the most joyful things I experienced in Gaza. I also initiated discussions between students from my school and students from refugee camps, discussions that were similar to the ones I took a part in at camp. I learned that although I may not be able to see my friends from Seeds of Peace abroad, I could still do meaningful work at home. Last year, I was invited to return to camp as a peer support camper. As I was preparing for my return, Gaza was attacked for its third time by the Israeli government. My father's olive grove was destroyed. I saw destruction everywhere, and the smell of blood was inescapable. I felt guilty. I felt guilty leaving Gaza, leaving my people to go to camp. But I felt that I could do more, that I could change the situation by sharing the experiences that I had during the war and making it more human. So I again traveled to Maine, a girl from Gaza, engaging in dialogue and sharing dinners with Israeli soldiers-to-be, all while the war was going on. It was a haunting contrast. At camp last summer, I learned that as we fight for peace, we must not ignore justice. Seeds of Peace provided me with the tools needed to seek justice without ever taking justice from anyone else. Seeds of Peace provided me with a platform to talk about the issues that hinder peace. And it is through Seeds of Peace that I discovered my desire to pursue a career in human rights law. After all, I know that to truly be a seed of peace, I must plant myself where my talents and values are needed most. And most importantly, to the hundreds of Israelis I have met through Seeds of Peace, I am not an abstraction. I am not a faceless statistic. Thank you. Tonight's honoree, like Seeds of Peace, also provided me with a platform to share my voice when I met her last summer in Maine. Andrea Mitchell came to camp in the midst of the Gaza war. She interviewed me and several other Israeli campers. Here's the piece that Andrea Mitchell produced.
Welcome back. Every summer for 22 years, Israeli and Palestinian teenagers come together to a camp in Maine. They're brought together by a nonprofit called Seeds of Peace. The idea is to promote understanding, but this year with the war in Gaza, you might think it's a lot hard to find hope. But as I discovered when I visited the camp, this is a remarkable group of campers and counselors.
The mess hall looks like any other summer camp. Teenagers playing games, friendly competition.
It makes us feel cooler than you!
But these teens are Israelis and Palestinians, more used to war at home than a peaceful campground in Maine. 3 weeks of sports and intense conversation. Kahir is 16, Palestinian from East Jerusalem.
I don't want to build friendships with people have hurt a lot of the Palestinians.
Daniel, his Jewish bunkmate, is 15.
I want them to learn that just like most of them aren't terrorists, there are regular people between us.
And those conversations absolutely get difficult, get angry, get scary, but they're incredibly important.
Hey Dana, how are you?
Helping them along, trained facilitators, including some former campers like Hiba, a Palestinian.
I hope that the kids would come out feeling more hopeful.
And Hamutal, a Jewish Israeli.
It's the worst time to be here and to be away, and in a sense it's the best time to be doing dialogue.
The idea is to build understanding among future leaders from conflict zones. This year, the war in Gaza creates huge challenges for the kids and their counselors. Haggai is Israeli. Iyas is Palestinian.
They've seen all the madness on the street, and they carried everything with them, and they got the courage to come here to talk about it.
I'm here to be the counselor for everyone, both the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Now the question is, will the understandings they learned here survive when they go home to a war zone?
17-year-old Salma is from Gaza.
I want my kids and my people, my brother, to live in a safe environment.
a ray of hope for a new generation learning lessons of peace.
Show this next picture. It was a wonderful experience for me, and they are continuing for 3 weeks to live together in peace.
Please join me in welcoming to the stage this evening's honoree, Andrea Mitchell. Like Seeds of Peace founder John Wallach, Andrea Mitchell was a White House correspondent. Like John Wallach, she has traveled the globe to connect her viewers to the most important stories of our time. As NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent, you approach your work with the same values that we Seeds hold dear: the courage to engage in difficult conversation and a deep respect for varied opinions and views. So it is for that reason, and for all the brilliant work that you do day in and day out, it is my great honor to present you with the John P. Wallach Peacemaker Award.